Hi guys, this is number 8 for Learning 3D. In this chapter we're going to talk about pirouetting loops. And we really haven't gotten or discussed loops without pirouetting, of course. But I'm assuming that at this point you're comfortable with loops simply because you've pretty much, hopefully, mastered all your basics. And of course I'm going to start with some loops, and because they're the proper foundation for learning the pirouetting loops. But once I show you a few maneuvers that you have to learn, some basic loops and different orientations, we're going to get into pirouetting loops. And there's many different ways in which you can do pirouetting loops. Of course you can pick left or right tail, and aside from that you could do inside or outside. You could do left to right, right to left, towards you and away from you, or you can even do at angles like 45-degree angles. So we're going to get right to it. Okay, here's 700 Nitro, and what we're going to do is we're going to start with basic loops. We haven't really done loops. Until it's kind of dragging the ground a little bit here. We really haven't done loops to this point, and I'm assuming that based on, get a little bit far away to get less noise. Based on what I've taught you on the previous chapters of Learning 3D, you should be comfortable with perhaps a loop. But if not, I'm going to give you a couple of pointers on how to do basic loops first. Do a little stall turn here. So we're going to come in from right to left, and we're going to do a loop right in front of us. Back elevator with positive pitch, back down to zero, a touch of negative, back to positive. Do it again. Positive pitch, back elevator, zero, a little bit negative, back to positive. Right now, as you can see, the wind is light, but yet it's blowing from right to left. So basically the loops that I'm doing here from right to left are loops that are being done with a tailwind. The tailwind does not help with the loop. Basically what happens when you have a tailwind is, number one, you have to feed more positive here to force the helicopter. Then when you get here, you have to feed a little bit of negative to help the helicopter go into the wind. Now that's one orientation you have to practice. Let's try another orientation. Let's do left to right this time. Now we have a headwind. So now we need almost no negative at the top. We just apply positive. When we get here, we back down to zero, and the helicopter all by itself is going to complete a nice loop. Do it again. Positive. Back down to zero here, and let the helicopter complete the loop. Another orientation that would be interesting and a good idea for you guys to practice is towards yourselves. So you set it up coming this way, not too close. You pull back elevator, positive pitch, zero, back to positive. I'm going to do one more. Zero, back to positive. Now, these loops that I just did is what we call an inside loop. Why do we call it an inside loop? Because the head of the helicopter, if you think about it, it's on the inside of the loop. There's 3 possible real orientations that you can practice, from right to left, from left to right, and towards and away from you, like I just showed you. Now we're going to do some outside loops this time around, maybe just in one orientation so you get the idea. These are very important that you master all these loops before you even try to do a pirouetting loop, of course. This is the basic foundation for a pirouetting loop. So we're going to fly this time forward, but invert it from right to left. We're going to feed a little bit more negative here with positive, with forward elevator into zero, into positive, back into negative. Negative, zero, a little bit of positive, back into negative. Now that is a outside loop. We're going to do it now from left to right. And you should be practicing these a lot. Negative, zero. I don't need much positive now because I'm into the wind, so the wind is helping the helicopter create lift. Negative, zero, back to negative. Finally, one last orientation towards ourselves. Come in, invert it like this. A little bit more negative. Into 0. Back into negative. So, it is again important that you practice these. And if you think about it, there's so many different orientations when you do these loops. You can do again from right to left, from left to right. You can do inverted or outside or right side up, inside. So that gives you what, 6 different combinations. When you start doing pirouetting loops, that doubles it because you have left tail or right tail. So basically you have 12 different variations of a pirouetting loop that you can do. Of course, if you do them at a 45-degree angle from yourself like this or like this, I really don't count those as new orientations because they build on your perspective of the one that's towards you and the one that's from right to left or left to right. But basically, the next exercise I'm going to show you has to do with how you need to prepare to actually learn to do the pirouetting loop. So we're going to assume that we're going to practice or learn pirouetting loops from right to left first. Okay? So I'm going to do one loop just like I did before. Right to left, pull back elevator, positive pitch, back to 0, a little bit of negative to help with the wind, back to positive. This is of course imperative that you learn. Now another orientation you want to learn is a backwards loop like this. Positive, 0, a little bit of negative. Here is basically the same concept, you're just feeding forward elevator instead of back elevator. You have to at least learn those 2 orientations, minimum. Forward and back. Forward and back, at bare minimum. However, it would be interesting and convenient to you if you learn sideways like this, tail towards you. I'm going to do one more. This would actually help you tremendously with your orientations. And nose in like this. Why am I telling you that you have to learn these orientations? Because as you start pirouetting, the helicopter is going to transition through each and every one of all those orientations. Same applies to if we're going to do a loop towards us. If I come in this way, you want to learn this orientation like I showed you before. But you also want to learn backwards like this. Definitely, at least those 2. You have to be very comfortable with these. And if you can, learn the sideways. So what we're going to do now is we're going to get a little bit more fuel. So what we're going to do now is we're going to practice one more orientation. Just one more. Like I explained to you before with the inside and outside, we're going to do an outside loop this time. We're going to do a nose in. So, kind of like what we did before. So you kind of need to learn this. So forward elevator, negative, kind of back to 0 here, and back to negative. And you have to learn this right here. Tail towards you. Back elevator, negative, back to kind of 0, back to negative. Now if you learn those, watch what happens. What you do first is you do half a pirouette at the top, right? Like this. And you turn it into forwards. Then you do a half pirouette at the top again, turn it into backwards. When you do your half pirouette, don't worry about mixing on your cyclic. Just do a half pirouette like that. And then turn it. Another half pirouette. So basically you're changing from tail end to nose in on the outside loop. Now once this becomes second nature and natural, then you're going to notice how easy it becomes to start basically like mixing the stick. Like that. Like that. Like that. And as you can see, I'm steering the stick. So I'm starting tail in, steering the stick, and I'm finishing tail in again. So left, up, right, and down. You can disregard my timer there. Same here. This is excellent practice because you're basically steering only one time. So you're basically doing one pirouette per loop. That's number one thing that you should learn, I think, because it's very, very easy to do. It's really, really good practice. But let's talk about the real pirouetting loop this time. We're going to try from right to left. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to cue on the helicopter at this angle. Every time the nose is to the left, we're going to apply back elevator, okay? So as we start a pirouette and we see this angle here, we apply back here, okay? Of course, we need forward speed to make it climb. So I'm going to start pirouetting. Every time I see this angle, back elevator, back elevator, back elevator, back elevator, and I'm going to stop right here. I'm going to exit. I'm going to go back over there. I'm going to try it again, okay? That's the best way to learn these things. Again, this is one of those things I encourage you to do in the simulator first, of course. Start pirouette, back elevator, back, back, back. That's it. We're going to exit again. Again, this is one of those maneuvers that you can do by cheating. This is basically what I call cheating. I know a lot of people that learn them that way and never really learn them all the way. But it doesn't look as clean and as smooth, but it's doable. Do it one last time. Pirouette, back elevator, back elevator, back elevator, back elevator, stop. Okay? Once you're comfortable with that, then what you do is you work on the end of the pirouetting loop. And this could be very scary. This is one of those that you really, really want to practice in the sim. Now, what you do is you start an inverted hover, okay? And you kind of hold it pretty high. Now, don't worry about how round it looks on the way down. That doesn't really matter at this time. What matters is it's actually not even going to look round because you don't have speed going with you. You don't have the inertia that you create when you actually do the whole loop. So, but what matters here is that you start a pirouette and you manage to bring the helicopter into right side up like this. As you can see, I'm cueing on the same angle, okay? That's all I needed to do. Every time the helicopter is like this, every time I apply like this correction, I apply back elevator, okay? So I'm gonna start pirouette. So back elevator, back elevator, back elevator, back elevator, back elevator. That's the end of my loop. I'm gonna do it one more time. So you position it in a comfortable hover for you, maybe nose in, start the pirouette, and then back elevator, back elevator, back elevator, back elevator, back elevator, back elevator. Be very careful doing this because again, this is something you really want to practice in the sim first, and when you do it in the real world, you want to do it pretty high, okay? Especially not just the up line. The up line is relatively easy. If you screw up, you can get out of it. The down line, like coming from the top to the bottom, you have to be very careful. If you screw up, you definitely are going to crash. So once you're comfortable with that, basically you put it together. And what you do is you do like the whole pirouetting loop. You do the first half and the second half. And you're going to see how the second half gets prettier simply because you're basically carrying momentum through the maneuver. What I just showed you where we started from the top to the bottom, we really had no momentum going for us. So when we were at the top, we were kind of stalled and stopped. And it was really difficult to make it look nice and round. This time it's going to look much better. Of course, as you saw, the collective has to work perfectly the way it's supposed to, just like it worked before when we did the regular loops without the pirouetting. So we're going to do one right now where we actually complete the pirouetting loop all the way. And again, I'm only cueing on this particular orientation, and I'm only applying back elevator, nothing else. So there we go. I'm going to do a little higher. Let's start pirouetting. Back elevator, back, 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 back. It's not pretty, but it's doable. Now keep in mind, the more you do these and the more comfortable you start getting with them, the easier it's going to get. And then you're going to get to the point where you're going to be able to cue not only on the tail, but you're going to cue on the nose. So if we cue on two different orientations, for example, at this time, you could do back, forward, back, forward, back, forward, back, forward, back, forward. So now we're cueing on two orientations. We're cueing on the helicopter when it sits at this angle and we're applying back, going up. when it's at this angle, and we apply forward going up, and we are cueing on this angle going down. When it's this angle, we apply back. When it's this angle, we apply forward. So that is starting to make the pirouetting loop a little bit prettier, because now you don't have these sudden movements. As you're pirouetting and doing your pirouetting loop, you don't have these sudden movements where people can see the input of just forward or just back. Now it's just looking a little bit more round. And eventually, the more you do this, it gets to the point where it just becomes a natural thing to just basically like start steering the stick. And I'm going to get just a little bit more fuel, a couple more minutes. I'm going to show you how to steer the stick all the way throughout the whole loop. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put the full pirouetting loop steering motion in place this time. And again, this is something that you're going to learn and acquire on your own. If you practice these pirouetting loops like I just showed you, where you cue on the nose and you basically feet say backwards elevator, only back elevator, and then you get used to that motion, and eventually you start cueing on the tail and you feet forward elevator. You're going to come to a point in time when just the steering is just going to kind of seem natural. It's just going to automatically fall in place. And I'm going to do it just so you can see the stick movements, and also so that I can put it in slow motion. You can see it your homes in slow motion. So here we go. I'm going to do it again for right to left. Start my pirouette early. I'm going to do another one in a row. As you can see, I'm steering. It's very little what I'm doing on the stick. As you can see, I'm barely moving the stick. Barely moving the stick. I'm going to go ahead and put it in slow motion here so you can see it. And that is the pirouetting loop, and that is an outside. Of course, you can do inside ones, you can do all kinds of stuff. I'm going to go ahead and do a 90-degree pirouetting loop with 90-degree stops. I used to like this a lot. So stop here, 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 and here. I think it's 12 points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That was like 8 points. Those are cool too. And of course, once you learn the normal pirouetting loop, those become second nature. It's just going to be a completely natural thing for you to do. Another one, for example, let's try an outside now towards us. This is just a very sort of easy angle, left tail. I'm doing it pretty slow so you can see. There's so many different things you can do. You can reverse the tail if you learn them in all orientations with all different tails. So that's right tail that way and the left tail this way. Pirouetting loops. Thanks for watching chapter number 8 of Learning 3D. I hope the tips were useful, and again, like I said before, it is very important that you actually practice some of these maneuvers first in the simulator, and if you really want to do it out at the field, you might be okay trying the up line on the pirouetting loop, but when it comes to trying the down line, please take the helicopter very high. I've seen a lot of people lose control of the helicopter, and what happens is you're get into a panic situation where you're just not able to focus and concentrate on your orientation and the fact that you have to say pull back elevator or forward elevator, and you're just basically going to get nervous and lose control of it, and you're going to crash. So when you do it, please do it high. Keep that in mind. I don't want to feel responsible for you crashing your helicopter. Another thing also is, please master a regular loop before you even attempt to learn to do a pirouetting loop. You should be comfortable with at least forward and backwards loops. So if you're trying to do, say for example, an outside loop, you want to be able to do in forward, flying forward and flying backwards, at least those two orientations like I show you. If you can learn all four orientations, that would be awesome. But if you're kind of impatient and you want to start learning the pirouetting loop and you don't really want to practice all those four orientations, at least forward and backwards before you get to it. So again, thanks for watching. See you next time for chapter number 9. Thank you for watching, what is it, chapter? Line on the loop. You could do it at the field when you go practice a down line. If you want to do it at the field, like I said, do it very, very, very high, because you can easily lose control of that helicopter while it's pirouetting on the way down. All it takes is just to get a little nervous, and then you're just not focusing on the right orientation to feed the back elevator. The minute you get nervous, the helicopter's going to be on the dirt. I mean, I've seen people like Mike Fortin do that all the time. So
All right, this is Explanation of Pirouetting Loops by Mike Fortin, take 16.